Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We have Zubair Hassan.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi. Zubair Qasim, but that's okay.
Oh my God, astaghfirullah. Let's do it again. I got your name wrong. I got his name wrong.
That should be on the blooper reel.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Okay, let's do this again.
Good luck. Good luck on the second one.
Oh my God.
Oh, I thought I was gonna screw up.
Yeah, you can't do any worse than this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
We have Zubair Qasim. Zubair, jazakallah khair for joining us.
Wa iyaakum.
You're, for our audience at least, I think you're a man that needs no introduction. Tell us the story of how you got started, how NZF came to Canada, and why you felt the need to bring NZF to Canada.
Okay. Around 2012 or so, I was working on a project for new Muslims. It used to be called New Muslim Care, and like many other Canadians, I never really thought about local needs or anything like that. Didn't know much about social services, welfare system, or anything like that. For me, New Muslim Care was a very dawah-related project. Essentially, just anybody who converts and all the efforts put into conversions or reversion, whatever you want to call it. Didn't want that to go to waste, so the program was basically about how do you keep people within the fold of Islam after they convert. So while that project's going on, of course got to know many people who either converted or reverted. And one day, one of the recent converts, I met him at Isna, just happened to be there for one of the salahs. I think it was Asr, if I'm not mistaken. And then he says to me, and he was recently converted, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks maximum. But he was one of those brothers who did a lot of research, before he accepted Islam. He was from Serbian / Russian descent. I can't really remember. I think he's from the Caucasus. And of course, they don't like Islam there. They don't like Muslims. They have a lot of history. So he was kicked out of his house, and he was a teenager at the time. In the late teens, but still a teenager, in the 17 age, maybe 18. I can't remember exactly. And he said to me, "Hey brother, can you help me with your zakat?" Because he was struggling with an issue. And I've never heard anybody say that to me. And I felt kind of ashamed because I actually didn't even know much about zakat to begin with. I just knew the basics, right? Most people know, hey, it's 2.5%, and you give it, and that's it. You kind of guesstimate all that stuff. I was that person. Which is probably the majority of people, majority of Muslims, I would say. And, I did whatever I could. I gave him a little bit here and there. And I asked him questions, what happened? He explained to me what happened. And that's how I started looking into it. And then there were some other projects I was working on. And then I realized, and I was getting into the social services side of things, but it was all service-based. And I realized that sometimes finances lead to certain issues in social services, meaning people have started having social issues because of finances. And then on the flip side, sometimes people have social issues that lead to bad finances. And for a holistic approach to helping people, you need a mix of both. You cannot just rely on one or the other. And that was another thing. And then, of course, NZF, and I knew the people that were working with NZF in the UK. And I started asking them that, hey, I want to bring National Zakat Foundation to Canada. There was other people involved in that initiative as well, who were pushing along with myself. We had a lot of interesting conversations in the beginning days. It's not always easy to convince people that, hey, let us do X, Y, Z. But I think at the end of the day, alhamdulillah, we brought NZF when we did. I think now it's not even a question. Alhamdulillah, in the beginning days, we were small. I think we collected 100,000 the first year, distributed 18,000 or something like that, which is not even what we do maybe in a week, or that distribution is probably a day or something in NZF now.
Yeah, so, we're probably averaging 450,000 a month.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not even us fulfilling the entire need. That's not even us being available to everyone. That's us with a lot of restrictive kind of like finances. If you actually open the door, like what we could potentially hit is much more than that. We just unfortunately are not at that scale yet. But that's basically kind of like, in terms of answering your original question, like that's basically how the NZF story began. And alhamdulillah, it started when it did, and we struggled when we did, and we grew when we did, I think maybe for today. Because if we were starting NZF today, we wouldn't have the opportunity to like touch the lives of as many people as we do, whether it was on the paying side or receiving side, or even spreading the idea of giving zakat locally, which is something unique that we do. So I think it was a
Like,
blessing.
what are the 2 or 3 most like wow moments where you were really like, man, if NZF wasn't here, like what would happen? I mean, if you have a specific one that's really, you know,
I mean,
there.
stories always stick out in your mind, and stories. So I'll give you some examples. I'm not gonna talk about a specific story, but I'm just gonna give you examples where, you felt a sense of joy inside. That hey, alhamdulillah, I'm somehow part of this. Okay, the first thing is sometimes people come to you and you understand their situation, and you realize that okay, to help this family properly over the next 3 6 months, whatever that plan looks like, which is what the caseworkers do. They create like a full plan. How do you make this person self-sufficient? They don't rely on zakat moving forward. Sometimes it costs $12,000, $18,000 for that family. Sometimes it costs $20,000 for that family. And I just think about, hey, that wouldn't be possible with anybody else. And I'm talking about any of the other organizations in the field. Like, it's a very blue ocean specific field that we're in, like what we're trying to do. And it fills a very specific need as well. And those people are not going to get the assistance otherwise. Like, who would they go to? They would just be putting bandages on like a massive hole in a boat, basically. It wouldn't work. So alhamdulillah, zakat, the good thing about zakat is it's not just meant for putting a bandage on something. It's actually meant to solve that person's situation, and inshallah they become zakat payers. The goal is to alleviate that financial stress and issue. The second, I guess, wow moment for me is that there's a lot of sincere good people out there that want to do zakat properly. We've had people walk through the door for zakat calculations with missed zakat in the past, and they wanted to rectify it. Paid a lot to solve the situation. Money is near and dear to a lot of people. It's like a humongous litmus test of iman. And then sometimes when you do a zakat consultation, like in terms of the calculation, and they say stuff like, you know what, I understand this opinion, but I think I'm going to pay the higher amount.
Yeah.
People want to give more than what they're required to pay.
Yeah, I mean, I found that a lot. Like, me, this is my first year doing any zakat consultations, and I would always go into them with the mindset, which was mistaken on my part, that they're looking for ways to reduce their zakat. And every single time I thought that's what was happening, they were always like, no, I understand there are different opinions. I want to pay more.
Yeah.
It's like, I understand jewelry that you wear, you don't have to pay zakat, but I want to pay more. Just recently, like, there was a sister, she had sold her house. She had, I think, like $400,000 in cash, and I was trying to tell her, like, oh no, you only pay zakat on the money once you held it for a year. So if you use it to buy a new house, you don't pay zakat. And she's like, no. She's like, she's like, can I give zakat early on it? She's like, I don't want to wait for the whole year. Can I just give zakat right now? And it just totally blew my mind.
Yeah.
Like, and I wasn't just wrong once or twice or 3 times. Like literally like 12 times in a row I was wrong. Like every single time. There's like another doctor, and he's asking me how you manage different accounts and different businesses and debts, and do you deduct the debts? And I thought he was trying to reduce the zakat.
Yeah.
And again, when I told him, no, you can, and he's like, no, he's like, I don't want to deduct it. Can I give it even if do I have to deduct it? And I'm like, no, you don't have to deduct it. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna give more.
Yeah, I think it's a good litmus test for our community. Like, we're always thinking about all the bad stuff, and We think people are this or that, but I think there's when you get into conversations like that, I think you get to really find out like where the ummah stands. I think the hearts of the ummah are good.
Yeah.
I think they just need the information. They need the opportunity to do something about it. So that was the second one. I think the third, like wow moment, not just for me, but I think a lot of people we talk to when we talk about local giving, is just the lack of information or understanding we have about the welfare system. So I know it's not directly connected to zakat, but like a lot of people don't realize. Like common question: don't people get welfare? Don't, but nobody knows. Like, hey, single person only gets like $700 or less, actually, for food, clothing, shelter, transportation, all that stuff. So if somebody ends up losing their job or somebody has an issue and they only get 700, like how? Nobody could tell me they could survive on that nowadays.
Yeah.
A family of two, like they'll get $1,350. So that was the other side. Like even when I was learning about it and I understood, and I think not just for us, but for the majority, like 99% of the Muslim community in Canada, they don't know the numbers there.
Yeah.
And for them, like, it's a wow moment for them too when they find out. And I think that's something that we have to keep educating people on, because unfortunately that idea is still like strong.
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely fell into that camp until before I started looking at NZF more closely. I was firmly of the belief that your zakat should go outside, right?
Yeah.
And I think you put it, really well in that nobody sends their zakat to Canada.
Yeah. Nobody sends their zakat here. Nobody from Pakistan is sending it here. So what about the people here? And the other thing is, like, nobody ever said that death or nearness to death is a requirement to get zakat.
Yeah.
Like, you are zakat eligible according to what Allah and the Prophet ﷺ told you.
Yeah.
That all that is outlined. Then it's not the people's fault if they live here or they live in Africa or they live in Pakistan or they live in Saudi. You can't just assume that, Allah's people are everywhere, the payers and the recipients. And of course, as we learn more about zakat, we know like how strong the local opinion is, right? It's very strong. And that was the original way that Sahaba did zakat, and the original, the four imams that everybody follows, that's how they did zakat. And like all that is so strong, but a lot of people don't know about it. And I think if we have a need here, which we see, but we're basically scratching the surface with it. And I think more people are realizing now, even with inflation and everybody's having issue with, paying their bills and stuff. I think they understand more that, okay, people do need help here. But before, this was a much tougher sell.
I mean, the biggest thing for me, which I realized though at National Zakat Foundation, is that it's different with just giving zakat. A lot of the masjids that we deal with, they do their best, but the tools that they have, they're limited to, just kind of taking a gut feel approach on it, right? They kind of look at the person, and many masjids have told us, we take a look at the person and we can tell, like there's something about them. They can tell whether they're, telling the truth or not. And I think our approach is more of like a systemized approach where, you're checking their financials, you're going through 3 months of bank statements. It's a manually intensive approach, but it's a fundamentally fair, repeatable, and scalable approach.
Yeah, see, the thing about zakat, so some organizations use it as just another revenue stream. For us, zakat is like we're trying to build an institution here, a pillar for the community. We want to build the zakat institution for Canada. That's our ultimate goal. So why are we doing that? Because just like salah, we need to have zakat, and salah and zakat mentioned many times. For salah, we've got all these masajid. What have we got for zakat? We don't have anything institutionalized. We need to institutionalize it, and that's what we're doing. Now, as times go on, there will be different ways we're going to utilize that zakat, depending on the needs of the community, depending on the crisis that we face in different financial ways. Maybe today it's one issue, tomorrow it's a different issue. Allah knows best. But this will become the institutional pillar for the community, for Canada. That's our goal. Again, also in the Quran, the amazing thing is the third category of zakat is amilina alayha. The people who work, like even that for me is an indication Allah wants you to have like a professional group
Yeah.
that manages it, maintains it, distributes it, collects it.
Those are the amilina.
Yeah, and they used to help people calculate. Like when they used to go and they'd be like, okay, you owe this much. They used to know the situations. And that's what we want to be. Like we want to cover the whole picture. We want to be the amilina alayha for Canada. That's inshallah. And hopefully, if we are raised with those people on the Day of Judgment, that would be a great thing for us. At the end of the day, I think that's what we're really trying to do. And if we expect people to do it as a side gig, like, hey, we're doing XYZ, projects here and there, and is zakat eligible, right? Zakat eligibility kind of stuff. Or we're doing, I don't know, like if we're masjid, our main thing is being a masjid, doing dawah, getting people to come pray and stuff. Oh, we're going to do this thing on the side. No, for us, it's not a side thing. Like you need to have right focus with it. I think, inshallah, as time goes on, we are, I think, inshallah, primed for that. And I think that's going to be our focus. That's why we're not diverting into too many other things. There's always opportunities to cloud your judgment or make noise with other activities. But I think for us, it's like slow and steady. We're going to stick to our purpose. And we want to be counted amongst those who are amilina alayha and just keep working hard, put our heads down. Keep helping people on both sides, zakat payers, zakat recipients. And solidify and unify this community, make it stronger as a whole, and bring izzah back to the Muslims that's essentially within Canada. Make them a thriving community, inshallah.